I'd like to welcome everybody from Region 1 to this panel discussion this morning. We're lucky enough to have the 4 women who would have been our judges this year had COVID not interrupted our lives. And here they are. It's Nancy Field, who would have been our panel chairman and expression judge, Mary Ray, who would have been the sound judge, Sandi Wright, who would have been the showmanship judge, and Jan Meyer, who would have been the music judge. So we're going to have a little discussion today. We're going to start out with, tell us about your category. Why did you want to do this category? What did you like about it? And what qualifications did you feel like you could bring to it, that you'd be good at it? And how long did it take you to complete the program? So just include everything. Let's start with Mary. Let's start with sound.
Okay. When I was encouraged to apply for the judging program, I really didn't know what category, and other people told me you should do sound. And it actually felt like a good fit for me. I fell in love with barbershop because I love the music and I love the chords and I love the harmony. And I have to admit that the expression judges, sorry, I used to sing songs and not really know what they were about because I didn't really pay that much attention to the lyrics because it was the harmony that touched me more than anything. And so you'll be happy to know that I do look at the lyrics and do that now. So I've evolved. But I think it's still, even songs on the radio, it's the harmony that really gets to me more than the lyrics do. So I think that's why I chose the sound category. And I took a music theory in high school. And I just took a little bit in college, but high school was really where I learned about music theory, and we did ear training every single day. And he called it dictation, and he would play something and we'd have to write it down. And that was the best training. I learned so much in that class, and most of people loved our teacher because he was a great choir teacher, but I always say thank you for the music theory that you taught me, because that was it's been invaluable. And my mom always sang in church choir and in church, and she always sang harmony. So harmony just kind of has always been a part of me. That's always what I feel. And about how long it took me in the judging program, I did my ACJ, the Approved Candidate Judge training, in 2002, and I went out on my first panel in 2009. So it was a long stretch. So
good. So tell us a little bit about sound.
Okay, the sound category. Our job is to judge unit sound in the barbershop style. And so that means if you look at the sound score sheet, it's pink. But if you look at the top of the criteria, it kind of goes in a hierarchy. So these are like building blocks. And this whole first section over here is vocal skills, which you'll hear about in every other category too. But we actually judge the vocal production, and then it moves into accuracy. And so that's singing right notes, singing right the chords. Is it in tune? Is it in sync? And then we move into blend and the balance. And then over here, so this is all the 70% of the category. And when you have a pretty good handle on this stuff, then that's when it gets fun for sound judges, because we get to do the artistic part of the category. So the embellishments, we actually get to comment on embellishments and how they are used in the barbershop style, and vocal energy, all kinds of things that make the sound artistic and make it barbershop worthy. So
great.
In a nutshell, that's the sound category.
Thank you. Jan, our music judge.
I have said that I'm the poster child for the effectiveness of education in Sweet Adelines, because I actually had very little music training before I came to Sweet Adelines. I played an accordion for a few years, and that actually ended up being a good introduction for me in understanding how barbershop music works, because the left hand buttons on an accordion are arranged in the circle of fifths, which is what we use in barbershop music. But I didn't really understand what I was playing when I was playing the accordion. And I actually got interested in learning more about music theory when I was in a quartet that was probably C+ on a good day. And we just needed some help in understanding how to choose music that was appropriate for our level, and for me to understand how I might be able to make some little changes to arrangements to make them doable for us. So I got involved in an arranger's training program in Region 4 under the tutorship and mentorship of the wonderful Carolyn Healy, who was the music judge specialist for many years for Sweet Adelines. And so Carolyn mentored me as an arranger, and I never was interested in getting involved in judging. But one year there was a contest where a very prominent and wonderful arranger had a strange arrangement on the contest stage, and a mutual friend of Carolyn's and mine asked me what I thought of it, and I explained to her what I thought about it. Carolyn was judging that year, and so this friend went to Carolyn and said, "What did you think?" And Carolyn said almost word for word what I had just told this friend, and the friend told Carolyn. After that, Carolyn was all over me to enter the judging program, partly because they were very short on music judges at that time. And so I did not want to do it. I said, I don't think I can. I don't think I would like it. And so I just kept, shrugging her encouragement off. I eventually got a letter from the Education Direction Committee that said, "We think you'd make a good music judge and we want you to apply." So I showed this letter to my husband and said, "What do you do with a letter like this?" He said, "I think you should give it a shot." So I said, "Okay, if I hate it, I'll quit. If I can't do it, they'll flunk me out. And either way, I'll learn a lot in the process." So I really did not expect to follow through on it. But when I went out the first year to trial score on my own as an applicant, I realized I could do it and that I really did like it. So because of the situation that the music judges were in at that time, I went through the program lickety-split. I judged on my own the year of the my applicant year. I went to ACJ the following spring, judged international that fall, and was put on two official panels the next spring. So it was a whirlwind, and I was, needless to say, shocked, and not more than a little nervous that first panel that I was on. But I had a wonderful panel chair in Jean Barford, who said to me, "Jan, I know you're a rookie at this. I've got your back. And I'm just here to tell you, every one of us sits down at the table and thinks, this is the day they'll figure out I don't know what I'm doing."
So true.
And she said, "But I promise you, the first contestant will come out and you will know exactly what to start writing on your score sheet." And sure enough, she was right. And so, that's my whirlwind story. That was about 20 years ago. And my second year judging, I came to Region 1, and I haven't been back since. So I was really looking forward to coming back to see you guys this year, but it was not to be. So I love the music category because it's what is the basis of everything that we do. And 30% of our category, as far as our category weights, are based on the song and arrangement itself. Whether the song is suitable for arranging in a barbershop style, and whether the arranger has done it properly and suitably. And the other 70% of our category is based on how well that arrangement was performed. So we judge the same things that the other categories do as far as vocal skills, energy, that sort of thing. We also judge the harmony accuracy along with the sound judge. Our category overlaps everybody somewhere. So we judge phrasing, dynamics, some of that Nancy in expression also judges. And when we get to the artistic part, that's when it gets to be fun for us as well, just as Mary explained. So that's the music category in a nutshell.
Thanks, Jan. And now for the best category, Nancy.
You're not prejudiced.
No, not at all. Not at all. Nancy, the expression judge.
We just saw the light earlier than the rest of you, so that's. Actually, the expression category used to be called the mystery category back in the day. And I like to think of it as the magic category because it's full of magic for when the singers and the performers lift all the words and the music up off the paper and make people feel. So that's primarily, in a nutshell, what expression does, although I'll talk about it a little bit more. My journey to being a judge actually started in Region 1. And that, my chorus, Syracuse chorus, my first chorus, was the western boundary of Region 1. And so I was in my early 20s, and I got on their faculty. I never quite knew what people saw in me, and like Jan, being a poster child, I'm a product of mentorship all the way through my whole Sweet Adeline life, and even today, it doesn't quite stop. So in the old days, they had a position called Regional Judging Chairman, and her job was to type all the score sheets for each of the judges when they would come for the regional competition on my typewriter at home, my manual typewriter at home. I still remember doing that. But I got to meet, as a result of that, I got to meet some people who evidently saw something in me, and I went to an international contest and was sitting there, and somebody came along and said, "Here, we think maybe you could do this. Why don't you try it?" I mean, I was sitting in the audience, and today, that would never happen today, would it? So my numbers happened to match. By the way, I had no clue what I was doing. Could I say that up front? And my numbers happened to match, and they said, "Okay, well, let's see where you can go with this." So 8 years later, I was certified. And so in those days, you had to be in ACJ for 3 years, and then you went to approve for 3 years, and then you had 2 years to be certified, which means you had to serve not only on regional panels, but international successfully. So my whole judging journey has been filled with people who saw something in me, believed in me, coached me, mentored me, and never made me feel like I couldn't do it. And so maybe I rose to that occasion. I don't know. My family used to sing, and we're talking about expression. I don't know why I chose expression. So could I just say I got certified in 1979, okay? So that means that I was in the 72, maybe, 1972. That was quite a while ago for me to remember why I chose it. But I will say that my family, I had a large family, and we always sang together and harmonized together. And I had 5 uncles, 4 aunts, and we went to my grandmother's, the whole family, every Sunday night. And so that's what we did after supper. We would sit and we would harmonize, and we were woodshedding, only I didn't know it had a name. We were just harmonizing around the table, you know. So, and I always loved the words and the emotions that could come out of things that, with the things that we sang. So I guess maybe I was drawn to that. I don't remember making a conscious choice. Maybe somebody said to me, like, "Mary, we think you should try expression." So I love it though. So however I got here, I'm so glad I'm here, because it's very magical, I think. The expression category also, everything that that Mary and Jan have said kind of builds into expression as well. I love it when our performers sing with expressive sound, because that's when the magic comes alive in the expression category. And it's not, none of the technique is showing. You're just so caught up in the emotion of the lyric. And that it's genuine and authentic, and it moves people from one place to another. I mean, I just think that's our job as a performer anyway. And when it happens, it's magic. And all of us know that when we're sitting in an audience, don't we? That when this is happening on stage, that it just is changing somebody's life. And so I think that's a great goal to have, with our music. So we today in the expression category, it's kind of morphed a couple times. We have 100 points to use, and although we look at technical aspects and the artistic aspects, they're not as segmented as they used to be in the old days. And so and early on, we'd be drawn to the technical portion of the category, and then the artistic came in later. So now, but it's all one, and so we're not caught up particularly in the technical side of things, which the vocal skills and all of that still come into play, because it demonstrates how well people can perform and lift the music. So we spend a lot of time thinking about musicality, which is a sensitivity to the lyric and the song, and then we can convey that to other people so that we can move the listener. I mean, I guess that's it in a nutshell. Of course, there's a lot of things that go into that, the dynamics and the emotional communication and how the music is phrased and all of that. But in the end, when it's magic, none of that's apparent.
Right.
Right. Now I'm getting teary thinking about it.
Oh.
So does that tell you enough about expression and about
so for
me?
now? I think you'll be able to hit some details later on.
Okay.
All right, Sandi, tell us about you and showmanship.
Well, I got into the program in 1982, and I had some quartet success. My mom and dad were both barbershoppers. My mother was a regional champion in 1957. And my dad was in a comedy quartet, but all of them were chorus people, and they loved being on stage. So I grew up pretty fearless on stage as far as not being afraid to be up there. I love being on stage, and I got asked by, I think it was Nancy actually, or somebody in that era, that in the 80s when they were short of showmanship judges, I got a phone call and they said, we like your choreography, we like your style on stage, would you be interested in judging it? And I hadn't thought of it. I hadn't given it any thought at all about being a judge. I just wanted to perform. But I've learned so much just by going through the program. And so I think that it made me a better performer than if I hadn't ever entered the program. It took me about 7 years to get through. It's a tedious and long process, and they want to make sure that you know what you're doing at the table before you go out there and start evaluating other performances. So I think that the program that Sweet Adelines has is amazing, because they really do make sure that you're ready. By the time you get there, you're ready to go. But like Jan said, there isn't a time when you don't think, is somebody going to find out that I really am not ready? But the numbers come, and that's, I guess, what the important part is. Showmanship is sort of everybody's category in a visual nutshell. You have to have a really strong piece of music with some visual ideas and that you can do something with. It's the salesmanship of a musical product. So and that's the textbook definition of it. Through planned and unplanned movement, one has to put the character visually on stage. So you have to be able to sing well, so there are no distractions from an audience, and you have to be able to express that character that you have to do an expression, but you have to put that out there for people to actually see, so that it becomes multidimensional, not just something that you listen to. You don't want to ever be a record or a recording or a photograph. You want to be a video, something that's live and that's tangible and that can move people from a visual aspect. it's broken down into, and I brought my score sheet too, it's green. It's broken into 2 sections. What you do before you get to stage, that 30% of preparation that goes into it, all the planning, all the thinking about who your character is and where you want to take it, and then the performance of it, which is the 70% of the category, what actually happens on stage. So it's everything from vocal skills being number 1 to your visual plan, and then how that plan is executed, down to the entrance and the exit and the bow, to how you plan it and then how you execute it, and then the character development. It's all tied together with unity and energy and just excitement and movement of the audience. So
Great.
yeah.
Are you done? I don't want to cut you off.
No,
Okay.
that's fine.
Okay. All right. Great. Thank you. Okay. So the next part, we have some questions that were submitted to, that were given to me that people in the region wanted to know. So I'm going to lay them out to you. And I'm going to let you just jump in as you will. Okay. I'm not going to go one by one, because some of you may be able to tag off each other and we'll see how they all go together. What are some of the biggest myths you've heard about your category or for what you're looking for on stage? And what 3 things do you think are critical for a chorus or quartet in order for them to have success in your category?
I want to kick this off by speaking for all 4 of us by saying the best thing a competitor can do is read the judging category description book. It's so frustrating for those of us who judge to have a competitor, wail to us, what do the judges want this year? It's all written down, and it's free for members to read online. You used to have to purchase one, but now you can read it for free on the website. So I just like to kick it off by saying, read the rules, first of all.
Go ahead, Eddie, just jump in.
Okay, I'll go. False eyelashes and all-in-ones are not listed in the judging category at all. There's nowhere in there where it says. Now, it does say that you want your eyes to be defined, and if that means by wearing false eyelashes or these new lashes that have fibers in it and all that stuff, or if you've got a lump or a bump and it's obvious that your costume's too tight, so get a bigger costume. I mean, it's kind of what we do, what we sweat is so small next to just rehearsing the music so that you can sing it and your vocal skills are high, and then being able to be real and believable on stage. I mean, that's really what we're looking for here. So you can't lose a contest because of a costume or your makeup. So that's a myth. All
right. Somebody else?
Yeah, I'll say a myth. And that is that the showmanship judge is the only one that watches. Because as a sound judge, sometimes I almost always watch part of the performance. And that's because I want to see what people are doing with their instrument. Are they, what does their alignment look like? Is there a reason that there's tension in their sound? If there's tension in their sound, there's probably tension in their body. And so I always watch part of the performance.
Interesting.
So, yeah.
I would echo that. I usually watch at least the intro or maybe going into the verse, just to get a sense of the personality of the group and the vulnerability that's being exuded to the audience. And it just kind of, I also always smile too, because I want, if anybody's looking at me, they shouldn't be probably if they're in a chorus, but just that it's a welcoming kind of a thing. And for me, this is a great privilege to have the opportunity to adjudicate their performances. So the myth about expression category, I think, is that yes, we always comment on dynamics. People say, oh, there they are, they're talking about dynamics again. But that's a part of the nuances of of bringing a lyric to life and taking advantage of a lot of the emotional levels that are available to us in the lyrical message itself. So yes, we do talk about dynamics and synchronization a lot. So that's probably not a myth.
Okay.
One of the things about one of the things about the music category, I'm not sure if it's exactly a myth, but it sometimes is a point of confusion, is that a song itself does or does not score well in the music category. And it, as I explained, 30% of our score is the song and arrangement, and 70% is the performance of that. So it is not unusual for a very high level quartet or chorus to win a contest with a piece of music that may not be exactly what is specified in the 30% side of my score sheet. But because they sang it so well, they won the contest. And it's frustrating, I know, for competitors to see on their score sheet that this might not have been the strongest vehicle for you. And they will, they will say, oh, but so-and-so won with that. Well, they sang it very well. And I'm going to use a quartet as an example, and that's Martini, because the tenor of Martini is a music judge, Karina Gariak. And she has said in classes that I've sat in on, Martini knew that we were choosing music that was maybe not the most square barbershop in the world, but it was the music that suited us, and they were able to win with it. But just because Martini won with that song doesn't mean that those of us who have, shall I say, average vocal skills are smart to choose a song like that. And I think for the music category, you do want to choose music, obviously, that's in a strong barbershop style, but choosing music that suits your particular group, style-wise, vocal skills-wise, is the most important thing.
Good point. And I think that was interesting, and I didn't hear it till you said it, but when you said, is that a strong song? Why is this not a strong song for me? And it's not about the strong song, it's about the for you.
Yes.
That's the key piece of that.
Yes.
Now there was one question that came up, Jan, that I think you'd really be able to handle, and that's is a 5-note chord legal?
I had to chuckle when I read that, and here's the answer. Yes, but only if that 5th note is the overtone.
Hey, well, that pretty much says that, doesn't it?
No, we have to have 4-part chords for contest material.
Okay, but okay, I'm going to just play. What about repertoire?
Oh, for repertoire, go for it.
Okay.
I mean, that's where, that's where your originality and your what I want to say, your adventuresome spirit can shine through. And even music that you use in an open division contest, not the one that you specify as the contest song, but your other stuff, and anything in a finals package at international. You can do whatever you want. You can have instruments, you can bebop, doo-wop, whatever. And but for the contest stuff, that is, a much more strict set of standards.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, now these are some interesting questions that were asked. And I think maybe it would be good to go by category. So I'm going to start with showmanship and go backwards than what we did before. And what is the fine line between C+ and B-? What makes you cross over? And what is the fine line between B+ and A- and the crossover point?
Okay, the C+ range is usually adequate. I mean, it's not uncomfortable. It's enjoyable. But then when you get into that B level, you can see the the skill level go up, musically as well as visually. It's a little bit more sophisticated. It's not so literal. Choreographically, it's not so literal. And it's just, you, as an audience, you could just kind of sit back and enjoy more when it's at the B level than at the C+ level. The magic that happens from B+ to A is when the technique is not obvious anymore, and it really becomes a very artistic performance. Between B+ and A-, you're less and less inclined to go, oh, there was a dynamic, or oh, that was really a cool move. It's not driven mechanically, it's driven artistically. And so I think that's what we can just sit back as an audience and let it waft over us. And it becomes much more exciting and compelling.
Okay, great. Nance?
So I would say in C+ in the expression category, I like to call it consistently inconsistent. And in most cases, we can tell that singers have been working on their vocal skills. And but the thing is that not everybody's at the same level at the same time, and so there's a lot of synchronization issues that come into play at C+. I also think at C+, that's the first time that you even sense a little bit of forward motion, as opposed to the lower C level. And then popping into the B-, what takes you over that is that all of a sudden the unit becomes clearer at B- than it does in C+. That's a signal for me. And for me, I like to call that in my head, but I'll say it out loud now. It's kind of like you're getting it all together, but your slip is still showing. You know, so some of that technique is still overriding the musical performance, but certainly it's come together much clearer than it was at the C+ level, and the vocal skills are yet stronger than they were at the C+ level as well, which is helping to do that. At the B+ into A level for me is B+ has their own personality now. It's very evident when they're singing on stage that it's coming across, that they've chosen music for themselves and designed their visual, the vocal and the visual match together, and there's more confidence there in what they're delivering. And the further up we're going in the B level to the B+ level, the singers, it's more singer driven than in a chorus atmosphere than director driven, and when we go into A-, the singers take over, and the further we go in the A level, it just is totally singer driven. So, and you lose any sense, as Sandi said, of there's technique. It all melds into one. It's just this beautiful performance of a song, a lyric of a song, a story, or the rhythm and the pulsing of a driving up tune. It's just, but it's all together. It's seamless. I guess I put it that way. And you can feel it. You can absolutely feel. I just know that when I'm sitting there and we're at A level, something starts in my feet and it just kind of comes right up my body. And before I know it, I've got tears coming out. I don't know why. It must be the overtones. That's what I put it off to. So it's an exciting place to be when you're hearing and when you're singing A level and B+ level, for sure.
Almost like all the categories come together, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
I mean, there's no separation. It's just one melding category.
Yeah, you're just kind of carried away.
Jan?
For me, C+ is still a little messy, and it's sort of scattered. And as one of the other judges said, you can tell that they've worked on their vocal skills. And even the notes are generally correct, but the singers, whether it's a quartet or a chorus, the singers are just pounding out their notes. It's like, I'm singing my notes, by golly. And there may even be a lot of energy behind it, but they don't have much of a sense of how those notes fit together into barbershop chords, as far as who's on what part of the chord and how that relates to the tuning and the balance. And I'm slopping over here into Mary's category a little bit, but it starts sounding like barbershop when you get into the B levels, whereas in the C levels, it's just a group of singers singing their notes. It's also all about the unity, as has been mentioned, And you start to see some glimpses of some artistic ideas at B minus. They can't always execute them quite with the finesse that you want, but you can give some reward for the fact that they had those good ideas. Going from B minus or B plus to A minus, again, is what's already been expressed. B plus for me is very accurate as far as the technical side of it. There's lots of artistry showing at times, but it's just not quite seamless yet, and totally artistic and free. And when I cross over from B plus into A minus, I quit hearing the errors and start hearing the beauty of what they're singing.
That's cool. I never thought of it. That's great. Mary.
Well, I think I'm going to be repeating a lot of what you just heard. C plus for me is, it's a nice level. They're doing a lot of things right. They kind of have a really good understanding about what they want to be doing, but maybe not the skills enough to be able to execute it efficiently yet. And moving into B minus, just what Jan said, B minus is when it's barbershop, B for barbershop. And so it's a little bit of a different sound. And I always think of B minus as, if only they would do this, if only they would do that. They could be a B chorus really, but because there's, even though it's a barbershop sound and their vocal skills are developing, it's not consistent. It maybe is sloppy. And you just think, if they would just sing in sync, that would bring them a lot higher. Or if they would just understand a balance a little bit better. And so there's an excitement about a B minus level that maybe isn't at C plus. Sometimes C plus can teeter one way or the other. Can be either really careful and in their delivery, or else be a little too energized and let that energy get out of control. So B minus is just a little bit more consistent than the consistent inconsistency that Nancy was talking about. I have that. I was on a panel with Nancy one time. I have that written down under C plus because I thought that was a brilliant description of C plus. So B plus to A minus, B plus, gosh, there's what most choruses want to be singing at least B plus because that they're doing so much right and so many artistic things that aren't necessarily owned by the singer just yet. And what Nancy was talking about being singer driven, it really is in the A levels. And there's some feeling about that in B plus, but the director still is maybe directing all the embellishments and really feeding the chorus what she wants to hear or he wants to hear. And so B plus, that it's a great thing. When A minus, it's the artistry just flows out. And maybe there might be little glitches, but you don't care as much because the sound is so beautiful, and every singer owns that plan and that message and delivers it. So it's all the artistic elements.
This is great.
Category. Yeah.
You guys gave some really great examples and great details. Thank you for that. Okay, so now let's see, what is your best advice? We'll start with Sandi again. What is your best advice? Oh, heck, just jump in whenever you want to. What's your best advice for improvement in your category, regardless of level? Jump right in.
Vocal skills.
Say that again, Sandi.
Vocal skills.
Okay.
Vocal skills. If you sing it well, it's going to score well. No amount of fancy dancing is going to be able to increase a score when the singing isn't very good.
And I would say the same thing: vocal skills, vocal skills, vocal skills, and then accuracy and developing a unit sound. If you can get all that stuff together, boy, you're really on the right path.
I'm going to go Oh, go ahead, Nancy.
Sorry. Vocal skills for expression as well, and developing a greater, higher degree of vocal freedom, you know, and a resonance in the unit vowel production that comes as you move up through the levels. And going back to what Mary said about the A+ or the A- and the B+ level, is that when you flip over from that, I think singers have a grasp on the skills at that level, but they're not quite confident enough to let it go. That's what I feel in B+ into A also. So that's a matter of that vocal skill. They have really good vocal skills at B+ level, really good, but it's just let it go, you know. So yeah, vocal skills for me as well, and expression, and just the vocal freedom.
Well, vocal skills is all the categories, but I'm going to back it up even further and say, back to what I said a little bit earlier, picking the right music for your group, first of all. And it's not an easy process. It's torturous for most of us, because first of all, you have to take a very honest look at the vocal skills that your group possesses. And that's not always easy, particularly in a quartet, because feelings are hurt so easily. But if your bass struggles below E flat, you're not wise if you pick a song that's got a lot of D flats for her, and everybody else looks at the bass and says, well, work on it. And unfortunately, that's what happens sometimes. So we need to almost take a ruthless look at what we can do successfully and what we can almost do in a rehearsal, but not necessarily on stage. And I think back to an IES I was at when Signature Sound was the champion quartet. And they had a class about choosing music, and the wonderful Janet Ashford, their baritone, talked about their choice, how they chose music. And she said, we ordered dozens and dozens of preview copies of music and sing through them as best we can. And of course, they probably could sing through them fairly well, unlike some of us. But they sang through them, and she said most of them ended up in the trash heap, and we kept the few that worked for us. And that turned on light bulbs for me, who was singing in a B level quartet at that time, because I thought, if the queens have to throw away most of the stuff because it's not quite right for them, then we've got to really be picky about what we choose for our music. So I guess for me, choosing the right music to begin with, and then, and like the other three said, it's all about the vocal skills after that.
Great. Thank you so much. Okay, well, our final two questions here are, does size matter? I don't mean in a quartet. I would imagine that means in a chorus. Does size matter? And do you listen in your own chorus or quartet with judges' ears?
Yeah, I'll start. You know, size is a tricky thing, because there are wonderful small choruses like Region 1's own Millennium Magic. Stockholm City Voices comes to mind, as well as many others who can sing wonderfully. And so in that kind of an instance, no, size doesn't matter. But on the other hand, when you're a small chorus and you've only got two tenors and one of them's sick and the other one's getting sick, then size does matter. So I guess it's kind of a two-sided question. So in the judging pit, size doesn't matter in the way we judge a performance at all. But in the real world, it does make a difference.
Yeah, I'll agree too. I for all those same reasons, only from a visual standpoint. Size is usually a reflection of quality, though. And so if you've got an interesting piece of music or interesting music that you sing, and you've got a good musical program, you're going to attract singers. And if you've got a lot of choreography or some ambitious choreography, you can usually pull that off in a larger chorus easier than you can if stamina is going to be an issue with a smaller group. So it becomes a visual problem and a vocal problem if they're not able to carry off the plan because they had too much choreography. So, to move like a big chorus, if you're only a medium or small chorus, it can have its issues and its problems.
So I guess I would add to that size doesn't matter because there are 4 in a quartet and we use the same standards, right? And evaluating quartets as we do choruses. Now I also would support what Jan is saying about being ruthless about choosing our music. And larger choruses can handle some things better. I don't want to say bury, but I will, because I have been there myself as a director and know that some of the vocal things are not that just occur or don't shine through so much in a big ensemble as they do in a smaller one. But having said that, I think choosing our music is the place we start, no matter what our size is. And but from the performance on stage, it's when the head goes down, at least for me, size doesn't matter. Size doesn't matter. And I have the same feelings about quartets as I do for small choruses, small, medium, large choruses. So it's and I've been a member of and directed also small, medium, and large. My first chorus in Region 1 had 16 people in it, and I took them to contest, and we got a D+, and I had no idea what a D was at the time. So I've come a long way. So, but I've had the journey as a result of that, of having to go back and be really honest about choosing the music and knowing what the vocal capabilities are within the group. And building on that. And then as Sandi said, when you start singing better, you start attracting more members. So that starts that other journey, the growing journey. But I still go back, even today, agree with Jan that the piece of music that you pick is what's going to contribute the most to your success.
Yeah. Mary?
Yeah, I would just agree. Excellence can happen with 4 people or 12 people or 20 people or 100 people. And so on stage, that doesn't matter. But I think the practical issues that Jan mentioned are probably a bigger consideration that, if you have a chorus of 20 people or 25 people and your contest happens to take place during, I don't know, spring break or something, and you can't, 3 of your baritones can't come, then you may have to be, well, for this contest, can you sing baritone and you switch from bass and then I'll sing tenor, and so there's those practical issues that can happen with a smaller chorus that maybe you can juggle things easier in a bigger chorus, but on stage, there can be excellent performances with any number of people.
Right. Amen.
All right, great. And do you listen to your own chorus or quartet with judges' ears?
I'll start. Somebody told me once that if you have a beautiful carpet and you spill wine on it, you're going to notice that wine stain for a while, and then you might throw a rug over it, or you might get used to the stain, and then pretty soon you don't even see it anymore. And then some stranger comes into your house that you've never had in there before, and they go, "Oh my goodness, what got spilled on your carpet?" And all of a sudden you realize, "Oh my gosh, I've gotten used to the stain in the carpet." And I think that that's what happens, at least for my own self. As much as you try to listen with judges' ears, you get used to the sound and the look of your chorus. And that's why I think all of the best choruses in our organization have coaches, because you need somebody to come in and point out the stains. And then you can take a step back and go, "Oh yeah, how did I not see that? Or how did I not hear that?" And so it's just a reminder that even the good ones have to have help once in a while to uncover some of the flaws that you get used to hearing. So as much as you want to look and listen with judge ears, I think that sometimes we get complacent. I don't know.
Because it sounds like normal. Because you're right, because so I noticed that when I have my judge ears on, which I do a lot, that I get distracted from the overall performance. I get zeroed in on something, and it's like, oh, I drive them nuts. In fact, after I've done my first judging panel of a season, I come back and they'll say, better watch out, she's got her judging ears on. So anyway, I mean, everything gets magnified. But I agree about the coaching. I also have to talk to myself about, don't put your judging ears on. And work with your teacher's ears or your coaching ears, and not so much the specifics of the category, and count on the coach to help me to do that. So it's tricky. It's tricky because you want to go there. I mean, I can't even watch The Voice on TV without my judging ears or anything else.
Yeah.
Anytime I hear music, I go to church choir listening with my judge ears. So it's a tricky thing to do. And yes, I think we do it. I think we do it probably more than we should.
Yeah, I think it's hard to get away from using your judge ears. You know, they're singing in commercial on television. That's
right.
Crazy. I'm the only one of the four of these judges who isn't a chorus director. So from my perspective as a chorus singer, it's hard for me to put away my judge's ears, and I'm a baritone besides, for God's sake. So it's hard for me to put away my judge's ears and just be a performer a lot of times, particularly during rehearsals.
Oh, I bet.
Well, I guess I think about using coaching ears, but coaching ears are pretty kind of judging ears too. And so it is hard to, I think about being complacent though. You choose the things that you're going to work on and that you listen for. And sometimes you have hot spots, and that's where if tuning is your thing, you could be singing in tune, but it could be way out of balance or something like that, or, that you don't notice otherwise because you get, you focus on your little hot spot. So, but I don't tend to think about a score or a level when I'm judging or coach. I mean, not judging. I hope I do when I'm judging, but but when I'm coaching or directing, I don't think about, oh, that's a B+ level or something. I think about how could that be better. Is the way.
Yeah. Well, great. Thank you all for taking did I yell there? Thank you all for participating in this. I've had a great time listening to the four of you, and I know you all, but it was interesting to hear you talk about what we do and what your views are and what you see and what you listen for. And so I've had a great afternoon, and I can't thank you enough for doing this for us, especially in this wonderful world we're living in right now, where we can't have all the things we want when we want them. So I want to thank you very much for doing this. I know the region's going to be thrilled to get this, and you've given them really tons of great information. So
could I just take a minute?
Absolutely.
Sorry, Sandi.
That's okay. I just in person. That's all. Yeah.
I just wanted to take a minute, if I could, to thank your CRC and your OPL and your competition coordinator for all the work that they had going on behind the scenes before we got to the place where we're at today. So, and for me this is such a great idea, because I was looking forward to being with all of these women, and now I got to do it today. So thank you for providing that. But do let the region know that their work was appreciated as well.
Well, we're recording this now, so it's going to go on. They'll all hear it.
Okay, good.
Great. Well, good luck to you guys. Stay healthy, and let's hope we meet again real soon.